That's right. Good. And what are the times, Sharon, when the Lama's here? Is it 2 hours?
10 to
10
noon.
to noon.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. All right. You want to put your phones off and those things, and we'll. So welcome. I am happy to be with you again. It's on Fridays. I always think about this during the time when I'm there. It's very undharmic where I go to, so you have to just practice privately in the bedroom they give you. So so I'm filling in for Brad, who has a throat problem, and he's going to do next week, and then I'll be on an every other week rotation. So we'll figure it out as we go. The topic today is detachment. So let's do opening. Would you lead us? Quiet. All we need is someone to lead us into being quiet. Either.
Closing your eyes, getting your seat comfortable, spine supported and length, chin tucked, so the back of your neck is long as well. Start with 3 long, deep, clearing breaths, releasing what you came with, moving yourself into your presence.
had a detached retina when I went back this time. In the back of my one eye when I went to get new glasses, that was repaired by laser quite nicely. Um, and it made me think about detachment and the advantage of it and the disadvantage of it. Um, and it was fortunate, the timing about how it worked out, because they said it had happened, it had detached in the last week or so, and that it was good that I was there. Just took the laser and sewed around the detached part, and now it's fine. It was pretty amazing, you know, what can be done. I thought about Ruthie at that moment, because they said that I could have lost eyesight in my right eye, as Ruthie has experienced, has been 99% of her eyesight is gone. So the detachment idea is everywhere. The attachment idea is everywhere in the United States. And I as I generally think a lot when I'm flying there, and when I'm returning, about what the experience has been, I really can summarize that my experience in the United States now is about attachment. And attachment to the relationships and the family and friends that I have there. That's the positive. The negative attachment is the way that the mind thinks in the United States is very attached in ways that the Dharma talks lead to suffering. And so the attachment to outcomes, expectations, routines, what other people think, what you think, judgment, all of those kind of things are deeply in the air there. And I come back here and I feel a bit of relief just from the environment. Just from coming here. Actually, when we did the meditation, when I meditate in the United States, it's hard to focus. It's hard to bring the focus down to a single thing here. When I come and sit here, there's these little circles that appear, and I join the circle. I can never find that in the United States. And so there is something beautiful about what our environment and this environment and the Dharma offers us as far as the value of detachment. The Four Noble Truths talk in the Third Noble Truth about detachment. That our attachments can be, in the second part, about clinging, grasping, craving, ignorance, and delusion. But there is a way out of that, and that is through the idea of detachment. A word that is really often misunderstood. Most people, when they think of detachment, think about, I'm going to release that. I'm going to not pay attention to that anymore. I'm going to put that away. Not exactly what it means when the Dharma talks about detachment. The Dharma talks about detachment like the plate thrower in the illustration that we've used often. They're a healthy person, a whole person, a more enlightened person, is like the plate thrower in the circus. That life throws plates at you, and you decide which ones will go on the poles and which one you will set aside. That level of focus and concentration is the detachment that the Dharma talks about. It's not just about the setting aside, but it is about being responsible with what you need to be responsible. So it's not an irresponsible idea. It's not about casting responsibility to somebody else. It's actually about taking responsibility when it calls to you. And also setting things aside when it does not call to you. How you figure out that call is tricky. And how you discern that. And so there's a lot There's a lot about detachment that I want to talk about. I've talked a lot about detached involvement. I'm going to keep the word involvement off of it today and just talk about detachment, which is a basic idea in Buddhism. And then I'm going to stop at any number of points. Think about how you are doing with detachment. I actually have a more peaceful experience in the United States because I practiced detachment leading up to it. So how, and I'll share a few of those along the way about how I'm like, boy, that is really different how I am responding to that than how everybody else is responding and how I used to respond to that. So detachment really gives you a very good gift about cleaning your mind. It really is about cleaning up your mind from all of the clutter, because it feels very cluttered in reactive living, and the West is full of that kind of reactivity. I'm going to read a little bit from something that I researched before. Detachment in Buddhism centers on our relationship with our thoughts and our feelings. We are not asked to give up our thoughts or feelings, but instead not to be ruled by them exclusively. It's a very moderate idea. Finding the observer in our own mind and realizing the transient nature of our habitual stories and their accompanying feelings. This is about creating new habits, which means that you have to release some of the old because they do not serve you anymore. And so the finding of observing our old habits and also learning what a new habit would look like, where we have many more choices and the circumstances that life brings us. We get to the spot where these feelings arise and subside, come and go, and the attachment to the dramas of our thoughts and feelings lead us to suffering. It's not the suffering itself that's the problem. It's the way that we think about our suffering and think about the dramas. Detachment is a way to connect in the moment. Detachment doesn't mean lack of energy or effort. It just means that fears and emotions, their stories, and the paralyzing preoccupation that used to torment us, no longer have the same power. Here's the key thing that I underlined. I can silence my mind. I can silence my mind. I think that's what detachment can be summarized as, a silencing of the mind. An illustration. Detachment is mindfully loosening our grip on things. Those of you who grew up in the United States, Canada has some of this as well. In the West, there's in the air. There's a striving that makes you want to hold on to things so tight. So that you don't lose them. And you find, interestingly, that the more people have in riches and wealth and the comforts of life, the harder they hold on to it. I've done therapy with families of wealth and families of poverty and everybody in between, and I found that the hardest ones are the ones that have wealth. They spend their whole life holding on to things tightly, managing it tightly, and you always wonder whether they manage their money or their money manages them. And I think it's often the second. It's full participation in life without control. Doing your best at any given moment and learning to leave the results alone. There's a hard one. the results of my. So now I'll do my first family illustration. My sisters don't get along. I have three sisters. They don't get along. Two of them team up on the middle one, and the middle one, in her antagonized way, fights back at them. And they would like me to join a team. Let's just simplify it. And they're all vying for me to be on their team, which is very, very uncomfortable. And the only people that they accept that they don't have to join a team is my parents, who are on everybody's team, and they do a pretty decent job with a difficult situation. And so there was a series of text messages where the three women on our family thread headed out with each other. One said one thing, within 7 seconds there was a big thing by the next one, and interestingly I was by my phone. I watched it with dread. This was just exactly what didn't need to happen. And at the end, two of the three of them disappeared and took their names off of the thread for a while. And they said some things they shouldn't have said to each other. And it was all quick. The fight was on and it was over in about 12 minutes. But the damage was done. From that point on, my middle sister didn't come to any family events. And my family likes to throw events when all of us are there. Separate Father's Days. So my parents now had to go to double duty on things. There was another holiday in there. And so my old parents had to now do more work because they could not figure this out between themselves and act even just cordial and respectful. I realized how much expectation they had of the other people thinking and doing it how they think and do it. And I couldn't have three sisters who think so differently from each other. And so the result of that is suffering. No clearing of the mind, just emptying of the mind. Emptying of the garbage that's been waiting to bubble up. Any of you had family situations like this where there's a bunch of things that really are going on and you just hope it doesn't bubble up? And then of course it does. And so when we practice this kind of detachment, we can observe that and not join. My middle sister was very, very bothered that I didn't join the thread. She was cool to me the whole rest of the trip because she has always counted that I would be on her team. I just observed what they were doing and I was not at home with it. I was not at home with any of them doing that, and so there was no team to join. And the expectation was that there would be this division. I bet you some of you are thinking about family situations that are like this. Detachment really, really helped me. Afterwards, I had conversations with the two sisters who are kind of a team against the other sister individually. And I really, as I listened in the conversations about what they thought about all this, they were stuck in their, how did this say it? They were stuck in the attachment to the drama of the thoughts and feelings that led to suffering. They were stuck. And they still are stuck. Interestingly, because of me being an observer to that rather than a participant, was like, okay. Okay. I guess that's what you need to do. So my middle sister has decided now she will not do any family events, including the funeral of my parents. I hope she changes her mind about that. But I think she might if it's in a neutral location and it's not at anybody's house afterwards. And I was like, okay. Not my attachment. Your choice. And interestingly, one of them said, text me and said, should I apologize? I'm like, do you want to apologize? If you want to apologize, apologize. If you don't want to apologize, leave it to the consequences that all of you will face, the karma that follows you. I don't know if she did or not, because that was the last little thing. But I wasn't going to tell her my perspective. She needed to figure out what the consequences of that were. But interestingly, those kind of decisions to live in suffering do have spillover effects. So, Father's Day, 2 events. Because of being a neutral party to the fight, 2 events for me instead of 1. So it does, these things ripple out and have effects, so that there is a bit of suffering by everyone. The gift for me was to do that in a detached way. It didn't throw me off of my square. That's the gift of the Dharma. And practicing this, not addicted anymore to the dramas and their stories. Other people's stories are other people's stories. Very, very similar to what Al-Anon speaks about. Grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, the courage to change the person I can, and the wisdom to know that it's me. That's the cleaning of the mind that many of these disciplines start to talk about. I'm going to stop there. What are your thoughts as you think about your situations and how detachment has been a gift or attachment has been a curse? Anyone?
I don't know. I just got back from the cruise with my family, and it's a big family, but we get along so well. And nobody gets in anybody else's business. We just enjoy each other's company, and I think kind of fall in your attitude because they all have that same attitude. And I shared a room with my sister, who's 10 years older than I am. I never really knew her, but we were just identical people. It was amazing.
So that was relating to each other in a detached manner.
Yeah, and it was great.
Yeah. Few expectations.
None. We just get along all the time. So it's just
Beautiful. Not my experience. but good. Anyone else? Word detachment. That idea has really helped you become the kind of observer that leads you to less suffering. Yeah, Sharon.
I keep thinking forgiveness as
Yeah.
being a very integral part of all that.
Yeah. Why do you say that?
Well, I'm listening to your story about your sister. I mean, I have my own things I can think about, but if there was forgiveness there, then all that bubbling stuff might be dissipated. And there was something you said that I didn't quite follow. I'll have to think about
Okay.
exactly what it was.
Yeah, okay.
But,
Come back to it.
yeah, something about readiness building.
Yeah. Okay.
Detaching from the outcomes, which is so darn hard, but particularly with things that you notice are causing you suffering, in a more extreme form, if you realize that you're attached to that outcome and start releasing that, it makes it easier to realize
has that worked for you, Lisa?
Go to one of our cars here. It was just, I had an idea and a belief about it. I was attached to it, and then, lots of stuff was occurring through that, and then I just changed my perspective, and I looked at things in a different way, and it let me just completely release everything I was so grasping on, and I just felt so much better, and moved on to something else, and it brought all the relief. 'Cause it wasn't going to be what I was wanting it to be. It was going to be something different than that, so
Yeah.
I had to get on board with that.
Don't you think that a lot of people who come to live here in Costa Rica have that experience of Costa Rica? The initial attraction and all the beautiful things that are here, then the reality of what it means to live in a jungle, to live in this climate, to live with our expectations of we want all of these same kind of things that we had somewhere else where it lasted a long time. Barbecue grills last a couple of years here. That's it. Then I don't know what junkyard they go to, at that point, but it's got to be pretty full. But people have the expectation like these lasted 10 years at my house in Minnesota.
Car batteries. It's like car batteries last 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
Buy a new one every 20 years.
Yeah. And so when you put that frame around the picture here, of course you suffer. Instead of going, okay, the battery's dead now. I guess I have to get another one. So there's a lot about this that applies to life here and also life in other ways. I often think about an enlightened path, and that all of these other old stories, expectations, storylines, dramas are little detours off that path. And the more enlightened you become, the more you see the detour before you take it. You stay on the main road and you're like, yes, I could do that. I pretty much know what that outcome will be. I'll be laying awake until 3 a.m. tonight with that. Or can I stay on this path and can I see it and observe it and then choose to reframe this, is what you're talking about. That path is, that really has been helpful to me, and actually been helpful to therapy clients as well, about that sounds like a detour.
So, the thing about expectations, and going back to your sister, once said, I'm not going to go to funeral. Your parents are still alive.
Yeah.
And that whole, generating that energy about it and collecting it and making it, that whole thing about forgiveness, it kind of just dissipates a little bit.
Okay.
Those feelings, so you're not attaching and collecting more negative energy about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It also is really about being mindful that you are indeed living in this moment and dealing with this moment as it appears. It's not about what happened before, and it certainly is not. That was a projection about what I will do in the future. I actually don't believe that. I don't believe what she said, because I think when the time comes, she will have evolved to a different spot than this moment, because she loves my parents. So that will be very different. So to be open to the movement that we do, and not make not plant our flag in that. Be careful about where you plant your flag, because it could very well change. Anybody else on this?
I got one.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we can attach to our point of view, like in an argument, in a relationship,
Yep.
for example, like we have to win the argument or something dumb
Yep.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I was fortunate. I was definitely suffering when I was going through the divorce, and it was purely the financial spreadsheet, like who gets what. Right? It's a spreadsheet. It's math, zero sum game, right? What it is, but I was really attached to what was right, And and then I recruited. So what happens at these things a lot is that
You recruit teammates.
the sufferer recruits a rescuer to help you against the perpetrator, right? The
Right.
triangle thing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm at lunch with my friend, and I'm just like, and he drew it out of me or whatever, we're having dinner, and he's like, you know how things go over the world, something like that, right? And I was like, oh, you wouldn't believe it, and he just like reached over and touched me on the elbow, and he said, Bill, let it go. I was like, what do I do? Let it go. Did you see it? It's just not fair. What are you talking about? It's just not right. He goes, Bill, let it go. And it was like a little touch on the elbow helped, It was like got me out of my head a little bit. And so when I think of, when you talked about holding on to things, the opposite of that is letting things go. And those words stick with me. And like he and I bond. We weren't even that good of buddies. We had ridden bikes together a couple times, and maybe this is the second time we'd had lunch together, kind of thing. And he had this just wisest offering to me. That I'd like to think that I'm doing that in other areas too.
Yeah.
Like not getting all caught up and attaching what's right and what's wrong, right? Which is totally dual, right?
Yeah. I used to lead co-parenting classes of parents who were divorcing, and the people who figured out how to let go of that, at least in front of their children, gave an enormous gift to the whole situation, where they stopped the competition with who was going to win these kids over. And when that stopped, when you released that, all of a sudden there was a new adventure to be had for everybody.
I was completely in charge of my own suffering. It was all self-invented.
It was.
Luckily, it didn't go on too long.
Yeah. This too shall pass.
That's too short.
Yeah.
I have a story too. Reminds me, we moved already to Canada, and my sister, who lives on the completely opposite scale of life than me, and you want a really good German girl, this is my sister. I'm not. I'm leaving the country, I'm dragging my kids out of school and where they belong, and I'm such a bad person to break all the German nice established things. She was really mad, and I said, you know what, this is our life, it's my life, sorry to disappoint you, what I do, I cannot come for coffee Sundays, but you can come to Canada. So I made it always light. So we moved, and she called me every Sunday and gave me shit. Every Sunday. And now we moved in December, and my dad's 80th birthday was in May, and I promised her, I said, you know what, when I can make it, I buy a ticket, we just moved. This was a big effort for me, and I'm coming to the big celebration, and I'm saying a good German girl, everything to the smallest little centimeter of this 80th birthday was prepared.
Yeah. Right.
And on one Sunday, I think it was in, I don't know, February, I just stood there and I suffered because I knew she would call. I got already sweaty, I got a headache. What I say now? How I get out? What I do in this 10 minutes of uselessness of conversation? And then I said to her, okay, sister, listen. And you don't leave me alone in my life. I will not talk to you ever. Ever. Angry. Ever. I will not talk to you ever. You want this or you want to leave me alone? And I never forget I was silent, so powerful and so I could not breathe. Because what I would say when she said, no, I fuck you, like there was silence. And the answer of her was, okay, no more. We put the phone down. There were 8 weeks. I remember when you had this speech about the time between when something happened.
Right.
We didn't
The
talk,
gap.
really. We didn't, not in anger, nothing. We didn't talk. I booked my ticket. I'm arriving in Berlin. My sister picks me up, and I get goosebumps. I never forget it. Oh, she
she bashed me about my juicing and my healthy lifestyle, everything. Everything. What I could do was wrong. And she fixed me up and said, "Golly, I went the first time to the eco store and I bought you, what is this what you eat? Quinoa." I said, "Oh, thank you."
Quinoa.
And she brought me things what she assumed I would like to eat because I really don't like the German food. And we had a beautiful, never forgetting these evenings because this would be terrible for my heart would I be not there. So yeah, just a little bit a life story of mine. But I remember I suffered so much, and it came to this bubbling up. You said what would be is bubbled and bubbled and bubbled, and then yeah.
Then it was released, and actually, your story is that giving something time and space allows people to come to their senses about things, and people are pretty senseless when it's competitive back and forth, boom, 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 boom. Then now you've done something. So it's a good lesson in leaving space, confronting something and leaving space, and see what evolves with it. Not a bad thought for me, with my family, to leave the space rather than continue. I actually am not much responding on the thread, but that kind of space, people can either come to their senses or they won't. They'll be stuck. Then, yeah, don't be attached to the outcome. Wherever you land, that's where you land, I guess. Yeah. Let me do one other thing about 3 kinds of attachment detachments. That there's a way of over-attaching that leads to suffering. Here's the list: clinging, grasping, craving, holding tight, controlling, hot, holding on to the future, based on insecurity, this kind of over-attachment, close to new ideas, aggressive control, swimming upstream, restricting options, limiting options, and lack of creativity. When people over-attach, they live, that feels to me like a small box. When we over-attach, the box that we live in it continues to constrict. Isn't that the word? Constrict? Yes, okay. The opposite, over-detachment. Disinterest, aloof, tossing things aside, disowning, cold, holding on to the past, that there's a false security in this detachment where we've thrown it away. Closed to the old, isolated, passive control, solo floating down the river, restricted options, and limiting perspective. When we go to those 2 extremes, over attachment or over detachment, we suffer. So this concept of detachment is connected with equanimity in Buddhist thought. That there's a path in the middle, which is always the way. And this middle path is like that plate thrower again. There are things that we pick up and we put on the stick. There are things that we receive the plate and we set it aside. We make the choice to attach or detach according to whether this will be good or whether this will not be productive. When you get to that balanced spot about attachments and detachments, You start to see things as they are, rather than how you hope they will be. You live with an open palm of acceptance. It's not hot or cold, it's warm. It's current, it's present and mindful, secure. This balance is floating skillfully downstream. It's not floating willy-nilly as Ruthie taught us, and it's not trying to swim upstream, which a lot of us have been trained at. But indeed, this kind of balance is indeed about floating but being skillful, because life, it will throw plates at us, and what will we do with those? And they might even be different plates as time goes along. When you have this kind of balance, you become a visionary with many options at every point. I received something this morning. I wonder if I shut off my phone, and I'm going to do it. Received something this morning, and I was just like, isn't that perfect? See, when you only have a day to prepare, that things come on that come to you, and you're like, okay, I can use that. That's perfect. By the way, that Facebook has been full of just incredible stuff, roomy stuff, and beautiful, beautiful things. I have a whole stash away that I think, if I just read these every day, I would be like in an amazing spot. So it's not all junk. On Facebook, there's some really, really beautiful stuff. Yeah, I think I got you a good one. Get to a good one. If you're seeing all negative stuff, figure out how it's. Maybe you just joined that roomie group. That might have done it for me. This is what came this morning, and it fit beautifully with that. The kindest people are not born that way; they are made. They are the ones that have experienced so much at the hands of life. They are the ones who have dug themselves out of the dark, who have fought to turn every loss into a lesson. The kindest people do not just exist. They choose to soften where circumstances has tried to harden them. They choose to believe in goodness, because they have seen firsthand why compassion is so necessary. They have seen firsthand why tenderness is so important in this world. Beautiful. That really is a result of detachment. About leaving the old habits behind. So here's an inventory about, think about this. We did this a long time ago, and people were like, oh, I'm not doing very good on this inventory. Let's see how you feel today. Take little personally. Take things less personally. Make few assumptions. Reserve judgment. Exert self-control. Train yourself in self-control. Passionate about all of life experiences, the good and the bad, and all of the learning and growing that happens with each. Give without expectation of return. Deal with the past, but put it behind. It's about forgiveness. Reserve hope for a better future, but keep it reserved. And doing my best is enough. How are you doing on that inventory? It's not about a destination, it's about the journey. to the destination. Better than how you have been before. In what ways? In what ways do you like? Yeah, I'm on a better path. I'm more enlightened in this area.
I think a lot of them, I feel, I can see that I've improved on. I'm not all the way there, but I'm not all the way back there. They've all been making improvements.
Yeah. Yeah, they feed each other in some ways. Once one of them becomes strong, it pulls the others along. Just like they can pull you back.
Right. Detach, you're not going to make judgments. You're not going to make assumptions.
Uh-huh. You see it as it is.
Then something stressful happens, and then I'll just get out and go back to your old pattern.
You can, or I mean, the one that really threw me when I saw this list. 'Cause I didn't make up this list. No, somebody else made it up. Passionate about all of life's circumstances and experiences, the good and the bad. All of them are a part of the lesson. About the learning, about the growing, about the challenge, even the difficult things, even the divorces, even the broken down cars. All of those things are a piece of the unraveling of the tightness that we're trained in.
Yeah, love that expression. Why is this happening for me?
Mm-hmm. It's really good. It's a really good phrase.
I think most of our self-love is built out of handling well difficulties. Without anything to work against, we don't flex those muscles, we don't gain resilience, we don't gain those skills of dealing with shit, right? So I think in my gratitude practice, I thank the universe for all the crap coming at me. Thanks for everything, including the problems, is really what I say, because it's the pinch point where you grow, right? It's where we realize what we want out of life, because we don't want that thing coming at us, so I can work more on this. So I think it's partially age and partially meditation gives you the space to not react quickly. A lot of it is age. A lot of it is age. We just don't give a shit like we used to about so many things, right? And over the course of a lifetime, we realized so many things we cared deeply about turned out to be not that important. So many of our core beliefs that we think make us up, our whole personality, have fallen away. Like, whoa, if that can change, anything can change. It's like things like, my country is the greatest, like, oh, I just moved away a couple years ago, or family is everything. I'm like, my family's spoiled. I'm leaving my money to the cleaners, like, things can change. Like, your core beliefs can change, and then that gives you, like, flexibility to take things in without being so judgmental off the top, because you realize all my judgments have not been that perfect in the past. So.
I think the slowing down with age and the slowing down that this culture offers us. You can stay busy here if you want, every moment of every day, just like you can anywhere. But that slowing down piece is indeed a gift for us to apply wisdom to the plates that are thrown at us. And when we start to do that, all of a sudden we realize that we are in charge of the clutter of our mind, and we're in charge of the clarity of our mind. When things don't throw you anymore. I was surprised in my family circumstances how unthrown I was by things, and that has to do with living here, and it has to do with practicing detachment. And also therapy early on in my life. The circumstances you were talking about, Bill, it was dreadful for me. I had fairness all over my mind. That I had to fight my way, and it was a fight I was going to lose. Why am I doing this fight?
Could I add one thing?
Yep.
If fairness ever came into play, if life ever got fair, I would be in so around with our wounds, warming them up, listen to resentment, right? No, I really take a look at it. Like, I'm so drunk.
Yeah.
I hurt somebody.
Yeah.
Didn't get caught. Like, if I got caught for all the shit I did, life would definitely be,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? The
Looks very
balance
different.
isn't there. I'm way up in this game.
Yeah.
Way up.
And then again goes to the two avenues of forgiveness. Is forgiving those who have harmed you, and forgiving you yourself for the harm you have done. Both of those avenues leads you to a spot to be able to live currently, no matter what your history was. I'm always amazed by the stories that come from the Jews in concentration camps, because the ones who survived that experience, and their stories about how they didn't attach to what was being done to them, and that was part of their survival. And
What's the name of that book again?
then
Weasel.
Yeah, exactly. Eli Wiesel or what? Yeah, yeah.
this
It's
is
all
this
about
is
that.
this is amazing. That's an amazing enlightened journey. And that's why, I mean, I can't go through one talk without quoting Jesus. This is Matthew 5 in the Bible. Same story, same storyline. Love those who have said, do good to those who do you well, and curse those who harm you. I say to you, bless those who do you harm. And you know that's the view from the higher road has a great perspective. The lower road, limited, small box and predictable results. And we've lived them, and we've had other people have that curse with us. But when we live above that circumstance, then we've indeed cleaned up our mind, which is what meditation is supposed to do.
It seems I've got conflicting information about how people change as they age, because I've seen some data that actually suggests that people, like, their happiness is declining, and then they hit 50, and it actually gets better from that point forward, right? And so you could attribute that to the, care about things, as many things. Maybe you're doing more work, maybe you're more introspective. But then other people, that doesn't happen for them, right? Other people, like, dig in on their attachments,
Of course.
on their anger, on their woulda, coulda, shouldas kind of thing, and they take that all the way to their deathbed, and they never, as Richard Rohr would say, aging is enlightenment at gunpoint.
Yeah.
But maybe that doesn't obviously apply to everybody. I don't know what the stats are. I don't know if you looked at the happiness meter, if it's 50-50, or if it's actually a minority that just takes bitterness all the way to the deathbed and then dies bitter. Curmudgeons,
In the East, where this is embedded in the culture, they say that old age is the time for wisdom. Middle age is the time for producing. They're really realistic about this. It's for producing, and the early stages for learning and producing. But this is the age where wisdom. People that do that end up on that upward swing. But some of this has to do with, Sheila, I think you probably might know some of this, how hardened the connections in your brain become, and senility, and all of those things. But I think the projection with the Dharma is that this is now a time where you get to share what it is that you've learned about the plate throwing. The plates life has thrown at you, and what you've done with that when it's gone well, and what you've done when you haven't done it well, or it hasn't worked out the way you wanted.
I'd offer a somewhat perhaps controversial hypothesis.
Sure.
That one of the reasons that women live longer is because they're more reflective, right? It's a strong feminine trait versus sort of like toxic masculinity is like, I know everything, it's all by me, I'm holding on to this shit, but I'm resentful for that, right? And it seems like it's dudes that hold on to the bitterness until they die, more than one. And no data to back it up. Total hypothesis. Open to data and research and all that kind of stuff.
Once you research and do a topic,
Yeah.
you could do men and women and enlightenment
Right.
and wisdom.
Because there's definitely data that shows people get happy in their 50s, but we all know the person that doesn't.
Yeah,
The person that's just,
of course.
yeah, taking it to the grave with them, whatever it is.
Somebody told me that everybody's life is, you said 50-50, and we all get the lessons in one point. It's not attached to our age. For some people grow up very, get lessons and lessons when they are kids and young adults and teenagers and have these brothers and then have to learn from this, and then when they go back to 50, this war is gone for them, and then they go to peace they can enjoy. And the other side is you growing up like nothing in your life really brought you to the knees, and then suddenly, middle age, 50, something happened. I don't want to say a sickness or divorce or something, and then you learn these lessons later, but now we are already too stuck in our, what you just said, beliefs. Maybe then it's even more harder for our brain and heart not to let it go. And I was thinking about this a lot, and I look at people and they tell me their true life story. I have to agree. You know, kids or teenagers who had one of them all the lessons and then gratefulness and see the life different. But when you are, you know, you were in La La Land until 50 and then the reality hits you, how you learn to cope. But he talked about dying and age and all this. It's all acceptance. So how we go with this. And we're still happy until our last day.
Yep.
And I just got taught this, and I was thinking about my own life and my friend's life, and really I can see there is lots of truth in this statement.
Wow. Yeah. I spent a lot of time in the senior living facility with my parents, sleeping on their couch. Probably slept 75% of the nights on their couch. You can stay in because they're in independent living, so it's really their own apartment, but it's connected to all the other forms of care. And it was really lovely, but it was interesting to observe the free breakfasts. I'd go down and have coffee with them, and just as you're saying, there are people who were just like, oh, I'd like to sit by this person. And then there are people where you're like, yeah, that one's not going to be good. But it was really interesting to watch how people had evolved in that, and actually there were a lot of very religious people in the thing, and my parents have a bit fallen away from formal religion and those things. And my dad's best two friends are Baptists now, Baptist minister and the Baptist missionary. I would not have expected that from my dad, but these are very, very kind people to my dad, and two men, and he doesn't really have friends. So I said, how's your friend? And he goes, oh yeah, we're good. We're in the garage walking around, and then he tells me a little philosophy of life, and then I talk. Fortunately, they don't talk politics, because I think that would be a big divide, between them. But there's a lot to learn by being an observer. I was really an observer of my parents, besides doing all those details with insurance companies and all that kind of stuff. And when you do that, you find out how you want to be, and you can make the adjustments accordingly if you're in your right mind. Some people are not in their right minds, and then you have to give them the grace that they don't fully know what it is that they're doing. So anyway, let's do loving kindness meditation. Anybody want to lead this? I can always lead it, but anybody else here do this and like to lead it? I'll do it. So, Melanie, we do this at the end every time, and we pick 5 people: ourselves, someone we love, someone who's neutral to us, someone who we're having trouble with or they're having trouble with us, and then the whole world, which is kind of the Buddhist going around the circle of including all people. So close your eyes, clear your mind of all the rest of even what we just talked about. Take a couple deep breaths. Bring to mind yourself in a mirror or in some kind of reflection. Offer this to yourself. I wish you well in health. I wish you peace inside and out. I wish you honesty and integrity. I wish you happiness and love. Let that sink in. Now change your view to someone that you love, whoever comes to mind. Picture them, smile at them. I wish you well in health. I wish you peace inside and out. I wish you honesty and integrity. I wish you happiness and love. Change your focus to someone who comes to mind who you might not know that well, but you run into or you see a neighbor, someone at a business, someone neutral to you. See them in the same way as you saw the others. I wish you well and health. I wish you peace inside and out. I wish you honesty and integrity. I wish you happiness and love. Change your view one more time. Whoever comes to mind that is difficult for you or they are having difficulty with you. With that same kindness, offer them these wishes. I wish you well in health. I wish you peace inside and out. I wish you honesty and integrity. And I wish you happiness and love. Finally, to complete the circle of these loving kindness blessings, think about the whole world, all beings, here, there, everywhere, on this plane, all other planes. I wish you all well and health. I wish peace inside and out. I wish you honesty and integrity. I wish you happiness and love. Let those blessings be in your breath as you take a breath in and release it. A breath in and release it. One more. A breath in and release it. Let yourself live in that kind of loving kindness. So our friend Ruthie taught us an ending to our Dharma times. It's right above me. Let's say this together. Go in peace. Go making peace. Living gently. Loving mightily.